Let me explain to you a concept of hermeneutics. Hermeneutics, Hermeneutics. Hermeneutics basically refers to theory of interpretation. It's quite often has been used with respect to interpretation of complex ideas, theological belief, and those kind of things. But nevertheless, why I'm talking to you on this is because if you are a civil service aspirant, if you're writing answers mains or you are also giving interview, then in that case you have to understand and appreciate the generation gap that you have with the evaluator, the question setter, and you. So hermeneutics play a very important role in this regard, which means you need to be actually understanding things not as they appear in terms of words, spoken words or written words in the form of question, irrespective. You have to understand them beyond their literal meaning, and then beyond the literal meaning their hermeneutics come into play. In this hermeneutics, I would like you to identify four particular ways to really understand the things as they play around in front of you. One, you should be very clear about contextual meaning of a thing. Contextually, women to be placed, say for example, present status of women. I mean, you have a question, critically assess the present status of women in India. So you have to understand the context in which this can be appreciated, like status of women from social point of view, economic point of view, political point of view, or current point of view, or India's point of view. One has to really understand the issue as it appears in the context that is given to you. Then the second hermeneutics you can have is that expectation of the examiner. You have to understand the examiner when it is asking this question to you. Then in that case, it is having some mind about you, some opinion about you. If they say like, what do you think about the recent initiatives of green energy in India? What is in your opinion? How far do you think? When you comes there, or even if you is not there, examiner assumes that you are the future bureaucrat. So when you answer in interview, or for that matter when you're answering in your main examination, you should not forget about not only context but also the expectation the examiner has got in its mind about you. The third hermeneutics I would imagine that you should keep in mind is the implied meaning of it. Implied meaning is that which is where they give something, they don't give it without any implied meaning that you have got. Equality is the basic requirement of society, comment. Now this equality, one has to really infer from the most sacred document of the country, the Constitution of India. That is an implied meaning. When we talk about equality, we talk about equality in the way we understand equality. I think it's a very small thing, but it is not equality before law only, it is also equal protection of law. So that implied meaning has to be, you have to go for the deepest possible connotation of the aspect that you are dealing. And that is where you get to understand the real meaning of it. You should not just confine to the literal meaning or dictionary meaning of it, because they expect far deeper from you. The fourth thing is that you should also have bias sensitivity. There's a biasness on the part of the examiner, and then you cannot forget about it. There's biasness on the part of the evaluator, and there's biasness on the part of you as the youth of the country. You have to identify all these possible biases, and the one that you can subscribe to, they alone should be expressed as part of your answer. Let's say bias towards commitment to the Constitution of India, national interest. Those biases must be reflected. Biases of the interpretation of provision by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, biasness of the collective wisdom. All this biasness must also be incorporated as part of your writing. And think, if you have been sensitive about this hermeneutics, I'm sure your answers will become more effective. But then how to know that? You cannot know the real width and length of the answer just by thinking within. You have to discuss with your mentor. You have to discuss with your friend that how they interpret this whole thing. On the 4 parameters I was just talking about, you should also talk to your seniors and the faculty members, and then they would get you the real width and the scope of the literal meaning of the word. Otherwise, look very limited. You have to be sensitive about it, and the more sensitive you are, the more effective your answers get, and more effective answers are getting, more marks are coming your way. I think it is very, very simple to understand. All the best.